Welcome back to the Sports Blast 1460 WXBR. We have joining us again now from Comerica Park, from the Providence Journal now, we have Tim Britton. Tim, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good. We're glad to have you on board with us. Tim, I wanted to start actually by asking you about one of the opposing players. Johnny Peralta, as we all know, is one of the guys named in the biogenesis scandal. Do you think Major League Baseball should review its protocol in terms of allowing suspended players the opportunity to return for the postseason?
You know, I don't really have as big an issue with this as some people do, just because he served his time. You know, they offered him a 50-game suspension. He took it, and now he's back for the postseason. If they're going to review the protocol, it's got to come from the Players Association too, and wanting stiffer penalties for first-time offenses.
Hey, how's it going, Tim? So tonight we got Jake Peavy going up against Doug Fister in Game 4. Doug Fister a little bit different from the three starters that we've seen in Games 1, 2, and 3. Do you expect things to open up a little bit tonight for the Sox?
I mean, in the sense that they can't really be much more close. They haven't gotten a hit before the I think, in the first three games. So, I mean, Fister is not quite as dominant a starter as the other three guys. He's more, he's the guy who's going to have you put the ball in play more often. He hits contact with that sinker. He's also a guy who gets a lot of double plays. So, you know, it could be one of those frustrating nights where you can't turn in. You get base runners, but you can't turn into runs quite as easily.
So last night you wrote an article that, given the context, this was Lackey's finest start with the Red Sox. What to you was the best part of Lackey's start?
Well, I think you go into that start and you're facing Verlander, and you know that you're not going to get more than a run or two on your side. And so if the Red Sox are going to win that game, they need John Lackey to go out and throw 6 or 7 shutout innings with 1 run in. You know, every starter tells you, I'm not pitching against the other pitcher. I don't really think about that. That's the lineup's problem. But Lackey knows if he goes out and gives those 3 runs in the first inning, that game's pretty much over. So I think pitching under that kind of pitch-to-pitch scrutiny, the pitch-to-pitch intensity, where if he makes one mistake, Miguel Cabrera hits a 2-run homer, that game's over. I think putting up the 0 as he did yesterday, that was the most impressive part of it.
Was Lackey's 97 pitches a key factor for Farrell pulling the starter with 2 outs in the 7th?
I mean, I think that was a little bit into it. You're in the 7th inning. With the way the bullpen has performed in the postseason, especially those 3 guys, Breslow, Kuzawa, and Uehara, you had the lefty coming up. So you had the runner on first, lefty coming up. We've seen him do that before in the postseason with Peavy, when Peavy was kind of cruising in Game 4 against the Rays. Runner on, lefty coming up. You go to Breslow in that spot. He's done it twice now, and it's kind of worked both times.
Hey, Tim, it's Mark Loisel here. Are there any moves you would make tonight if you were either manager to spark up the lineup a little bit? We saw Farrell put Johnny Gomes in last night rather than Daniel Nava. Is there anything you would do if you were Leland?
I mean, Leland he shifted his order. I think it's the same 9 guys. Jose Iglesias is starting at shortstop, which makes sense when you've got a ground ball pitcher like Fister out there.
Right.
But he's moved Austin Jackson down to ace, so Torrey Hunter's leading off. Everyone else has kind of moved up. Hunter's leading off. Cabrera's being second, and then fielder. I think that's the guys who have hurt the Red Sox in this series are Peralta and Martinez. And the reason that if they haven't hurt him too much is that Peralta and Martinez get on, and then you get into that bottom part of the order, Infante and Iglesias or Andy Dirt.
Right.
Those guys haven't made them pay for those guys, for Peralta and Martinez getting on. So the Red Sox have gotten the right guys out, pretty much the guys ahead of Cabrera and the hotter hitters of the Tigers order.
Tim, before we let you go, I just want to ask, Phil Koch was brought in to face David Ortiz late in the game last night. Obviously, we all know the drama that happened in Game 2 on Sunday with Benoit. Do you think from here on out in this series, late in games, that Jim Leland is going to go strictly to Phil Koch to face David Ortiz?
I think we'll see it more. The reason they didn't bring in Koch in Game 2 was because he hadn't pitched since September 18th, I think, so that's nearly a month without pitching, and then you're going to throw that guy into a bases-loaded situation and David Ortiz at the plate. That's a tough task for anyone, even a guy who boasts the career numbers against Ortiz that Koch does. So I think even, last night it's still a 1-run game when he came in, but the Tigers are down a run. There's nobody on. There's 1 out. It's not quite the high-leverage situation it would have been in Game 2. So I think now that Koch kind of has his legs under him a little bit, we might see him more as the matchup lefty there, especially against Ortiz.
Awesome stuff, Tim. Always love it. Tim Britton, the Red Sox beat writer for the Providence Journal. Tim, we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Tim.
Oh, thanks. Anytime.
All right,
Thank
take
you,
it
Tim.
easy. Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Phil Koch does have good numbers off David Ortiz, but remember, Joaquin Benoit had never surrendered a home run to David Ortiz before that grand slam on Sunday.
5 for 22.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it really is surprising. I felt like Benoit kind of felt comfortable in that position. And then, David Ortiz just lights him up, and he's like,
he left a changeup up over the middle of the plate. You can't
pitch.
do that.
And what's impressive to me about that at bat is that Ortiz was sitting on the changeup. He was ready for it. I mean, he wasn't
first
gonna...
pitch, he was being very aggressive. I think regardless. Pitch,
just a great adjustment that he made. He wasn't going to let them beat him with a fastball again, and I think he knew that they were trying to beat him with a fastball. And he adjusted, and it was just an amazing hit and an amazing moment in that game. But I think going back to what we were talking about earlier with just the fragility of this series so far, the Sox could have been down 3-0. Instead, they're up 2-1, and I personally, I'm wondering what the X factor is here. Is it the bench? The Red Sox have a deeper bench than Detroit. Is it really just the grit and determination of this team?
Like, their best hitter off the bench is Jose Iglesias.
And they don't run. They can't run off the bench either, right?
Peña's the backup catcher. They have this pinch runner who has one stolen base, Hector, whatever his name.
Didn't he come in the other night to pinch run for Martinez?
Martinez
he
turned
didn't
his
do
ankle
anything.
running first.
He has one steal.
Yeah, one steal on the season.
There you have it. The guy that you have coming off the bench for Detroit to get as a pinch runner, when you need a guy who's at first base who can steal second base, you go to a guy from the Detroit bench who's had one steal the entire season. Look at what the Red Sox have. You got Barry, who hasn't failed to steal a base.
Xander Bogaerts has got some speed.
And the GM for the Detroit Tigers is one of the best GMs in the game. Mm-hmm. And I'm very shocked, you bring that up. It's a spectacular point because Quentin Barry, he is a risky move to sign, but the Red Sox wanted to sign him for his running. And that's what they looked at. They looked at all the attributes that, look at Mike Harp, look at Johnny Gomes, look at Quentin Barry, look at David Ross.
They got a way better bench than the Tigers.
The biggest
it's
thing
incredible.
This series, runners in scoring position, 2 outs for the Tigers, 2 for 15. Do
you have the Sox?
The Red Sox are 2 for 9.
Wow.
So they have had 6 more at-bats with runners in scoring position and 2 outs.
Yeah, and it does seem like the Tigers aren't coming up with the big hit. Again, Ortiz drove in 4 runs with that hit. I think that's Ortiz's only hit so far in the series.
Same thing with Napoli.
Right, so, I mean, you've had a couple of really big hits, and that's what's put the Sox over the hump so far in this series, and that's why they're up 2-1. It's just unbelievable that Detroit, with all the hitting that they haven't been able to come up big in those situations.
Although, when you talk about the Tigers and not with the timely hitting, I actually saw a funny stat. I think Omar Infante, not that he's a big hitter or anything, I think he's better with the bases empty than with runners in scoring positions, so that might have something to do with it.
The starters this series, 21 innings, 35 Ks, and 2 earned runs allowed for the Tigers.
And 69 batters faced, right? Starters have struck out more than half of the batters that they've faced.
And the Tigers are banking on all their superstars. You got Prince Fielder, Miguel Cabrera.
Cabrera did not look right last night.
Johnny Peralta, Victor Martinez has been on a tear.
9 career high 9 swinging strikes
from Miguel Cabrera last night. Right. And he looked terrible in his last at bat.
Oh, Junichi Tazawa, coming in to.
Well, if you throw him a fastball, that's.
He looked off balance. He doesn't look 100%.
He's
and I think that the at bat last night against Tazawa was it showed perfectly. He's not at 100% because he was lunging. He was lunging at the ball on the outside of the plate. That's the best hitter in the major leagues right now. He's a Triple Crown winner. Mm-hmm. That guy's gonna not chase that pitch if he's healthy, or he's gonna put a bat on the ball and hit something foul. He couldn't even hit the ball. Mm-hmm. He has 1 out and a man on third. All he's got to do is hit a fly ball.
Right.
You expect Miguel Cabrera to be able to do that, and he couldn't last night.
Right.
I thought it was a terrible at-bat against Tazawa.
And my point, when you have a batting aura like Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder, you are really hoping that, the run production comes from them. With the Red Sox, it's just a complete team. They all know their role. They get the job. They get hits. They steal bases. David Ortiz hits home runs. Mike Napoli occasionally, as we saw. But they all know their they play a factor, whether it's stealing bases or getting hits in the outfield or regular base hits.
Right, and just bringing back what Brian McPherson said when he joined us, he said, look, Mike Napoli, they knew that when they signed him, he's a guy that's going to strike out a lot, but that's not all he does. He is a masher. He's going to get his big hits, his doubles, his home runs. That's what sluggers do. They strike out a lot, so why are we surprised? Well, we're surprised, maybe not surprised, maybe that's not the best word to use, but a little bit startled at the fact that he's been striking out at a record rate. But when he's given you what he has with the power numbers, why complain? I mean, yes, a lot of them have come in bad situations where he really should have driven in a run, but they're winning and it's working, and Mike Napoli got a big hit last night to win the game for them.
And the main thing, he's healthy. That hit flexor, it's gone in a way. And they shouldn't even brought it up during contract negotiations because he might not be here next year because of that.
Hey, there's a young Cuban player who looks pretty nice at first base.
Abreu.
I would say that with Napoli and with all the Red Sox hitters, what's impressed me the most has been their approach to the Tigers starting pitching. I mean, they haven't hit the ball. They've been striking out left and right, and yet they still somehow managed to work the count, get the pitch count high up on these starters, and maybe have to have the starters taken out and get to the Tigers' bullpen a little faster.
Ortiz's at bat in the second inning where he worked that walk. That was crucial. And Gomes fouling off like thousands.
He had
pitches.
a 9-pitch at bat, and I thought the Gomes at bat was really what kind of got the Red Sox going a little bit
Verlander
in
was
that
still
game.
in that game, right?
Gomes almost hit one off of him too. Almost hit one.
He was by about 5 feet.
And Ortiz hit one in the second at bat that almost went out too.
Yep.
A lot of loud outs yesterday. And, that's pretty much been the story for the Sox early on in this series is they did the few big outs that they had were loud outs. Like you go back to game 1, Stephen Drew had a really loud out at the end of the game that we thought was gone. I'm sure a lot of us did. I sure did. And it just ended up being a harmless fly ball to right field to Torrey Hunter. Which, speaking of Torrey Hunter, I mean, like, that error in right field yesterday. Torrey Hunter, of all people? Man, you don't see that a lot. Anyways, we got to take a break here, but we'll be right back with Hindsight 2020, one of our segments that will be debuting here tonight, 1460 WXBR.